let's have a look at problems that can be addressed using qualitative or quantitative research. Let's say you are a startup and you want to introduce several flavors of ice cream to the market, but you're not sure which flavor is the popular one, which ones should be combined together, which one would resonate most with the consumer. Or you're developing a new product, or you want to tweak that level of sugar, or you want to tweak that color of blue or that palette of orange or greenish color. What is the best way to find answers to these managerial questions or this research question? It's actually to use qualitative research. And let me just say that in this example here, I'm not endorsing any ice cream brands, nor am I endorsing ice cream consumption. I'm just using it for research educational purposes. So let's say you want to investigate this problem in detail. You get a group of consumers into your focus group, you give them different samples of ice cream to taste, or you give them different printouts with different color palettes, and then you can actually find the answer to this question. And it is also allowing you to ask them why they feel this way. Why would they pick this flavor? Why would this pick this color combination or these ice cream scoops combined? You can also use qualitative research to understand past experiences. Let's say best and worst ice cream consumption experience, and you can also use collages for it. You may also want to understand, is a particular color evoking a particular emotion, or whether if they feel in a particular way, they would consume or pick different or specific color for their ice cream. Of course, the example here with emotions is color is made up. I'm using for educational purposes, but if you find a paper which actually showed that there is an association between the color choice of the ice cream and how we feel emotionally, please put it in the comment down below. I would love to read it. With quantitative research methods, we may look at exactly similar problem. Let's say we're not sure which ice cream brand blend or flavor to introduce, but we would be looking at a slightly different way to measure it, and it would lend itself more to the quantitative way of investigation. We may be using bar charts or pie charts to summarize the data, to describe the trends in the data, or we may be looking at some more complex modeling, testing of differences between different flavor choice or different color, and so on and so forth. So the type of questions would be different. Here you may not be able to understand why in as much as you would with qualitative research, why this particular color, but you may be now looking at a slightly different aspect as a manager, as a researcher, which is to quantify the trends in a larger sample to understand which color of these several options that you presented to the consumers are more favorable, and you would be looking at percentages and frequencies at the number of people that actually picked a particular color, and then based on their socio-demographics and psychographics, you would try to understand what could potentially explain that choice. That is more feasible in the experimental context. In a survey, that would be more associational data or correlation data, and I have a separate video that talks about correlations versus causality. So if these are the terms that you're still struggling with, you're not sure what they are, please watch that video. So if I look at example of problems that can be addressed using quantitative research, then I would be interested in knowing which color is more popular, which color is associated with which flavor, because you can do a bit of a matching test. You can pick the right color for a new brand if you're actually not sure whether it would resonate with the consumers, and then quantitatively you'd be able to see which brand name is matched with which particular color in terms of percentages and frequencies. If you want to know why, then you would be doing qualitative research, which I have just talked about. You may also be measuring their emotional states, if this is what you're interested in, if this is your research question, and then you may be looking at the correlation between color and emotions. If in an experiment, you can talk about the effect, cause and effect of the color on emotions, or the other way around, depending on how you look at this research problem. What are the other instances when qualitative research can be fantastic for marketing managers or marketing researchers? We may use it when we want to understand consumer preferences formation or attitude formation. Why is it hard to change the attitudes? What is that nudge that consumers may need to change their attitudes and behavior? We may be looking at experiences, their past, present, or future usage of products or services, how they can improve, why we're losing customers, why is our retention rate so low, what is it that they need to remain, and reduce switching cost. Motivators and barriers for behaviors is also very suitable for qualitative research because we can go in depth and understand what is going on with consumers. Brand mental maps, branding research, rebranding, that also lends itself beautifully to qualitative research. Understanding consumer journey, this is so exciting. Touch points. Where is the bottleneck? Where is the problem? Testing new product ideas, which I absolutely love. And testing of advertising, the creative ads that you've just developed, and you're not sure which one will resonate better with consumers. Qualitative is your answer. Developing upcoming surveys, just understanding what needs to go in there. That is what qualitative research is useful for. With quantitative research, to give you a bit more context, now we are looking at who, when, where, and how much questions. See here, I've got why, because we really want to explore, have a deep dive, and understand. Now with quantitative research, we want to quantify, we want to understand who is doing what, how many of them are doing this aspect, when are they doing this, where are they buying, how much or how long something is happening, how much they are spending. Include such problems as assessing the prevalence of a particular behavior, assessing the prevalence of a positive or negative or neutral brand attitude or any other attitude, because we would be looking at percentages in this case, or means if we are calculating average. We can also understand the proportions of percentages of users versus non-users versus those who are sitting on the fence. They haven't made up their mind yet. We also may understand the top of the mind awareness, the recall, because that's what a lot of brands want to know. That's what they are interested in. We may measure satisfaction, likelihood of purchase, likelihood of retention, net promoter score, likelihood of recommending your brand to someone else. We can also estimate market potential, model pricing research. We can run experiments. We can test different advertisements on consumers. We can also conduct segmentation, which is AKA cluster analysis. This is so important for marketing strategy and implementation. We may also be doing geo-segmentation. So here you can see that we are after more concrete, more numerical aspects of consumer behavior or individuals' behavior, because we do not necessarily want to understand why, but we want to have an understanding of the key trends. Now, before I wrap up this video, I would like to say that qualitative and quantitative research, they can be used as a standalone techniques, which means if your problem is better addressed using qualitative research, then just go for it and use it. But if your problem is better addressed using quantitative research, that's what you should be using. But there will be instances when, for example, you need to combine both, and sometimes it's called mixed methods or combined approach. You will see this approach quite a lot done in academia for PhDs or masters by research, or in market research industry, where there is a lot of uncertainty. For example, we're not sure how consumers go through particular decision-making process, which means in this case, qualitative is really needed as a phase to inform quantitative research. But there could be an instance where you do your quantitative survey, you do your experiment, but then you encounter an unexpected or interesting finding, and then you want to go and explore it in depth. In other words, supplement it with a qualitative inquiry. For example, if you're consulting for a client, if you're in market research industry, you may find that there is a big percentage of people who are about to switch from your customer and go to a different brand, in other words, switch the competitor, then you may want to identify those people or people who are more likely to do that in the future and conduct in-depth research with them to understand what is going wrong so that the managers can later implement strategies to improve the situation. This is everything for this video. I hope that you now know the difference between qual and quant and will not make a mistake.